somebody go all the way there all the time.
Yes, very true.
So like it's a balance between, and it's a tough balance. That's why like, I'm glad we had this conversation, because it's tough to say like, don't do that, don't enjoy this part of your sexuality when it's enjoyable. But like, I guess the balance is what we're going for, and really don't define yourself by that. Unless you're Amber Rose. But what would we do without porn stars?
What would we do without strip clubs?
Let's focus.
Yeah,
we're not going to go off on this testosterone tangent tonight.
Right.
Okay, I'm
We're going to keep it together.
What
we're going
we
to
really
go
want
step
to
by
delve
step.
into on tonight's show is the current generation's idea of success, essentially, particularly our young women, and what they are idolizing and looking up to. And this is kind of a spin-off from last week's show and my whole weekend in Miami, in my hometown, and just really seeing how young women are operating and how they are at the nightclub and they are just waiting to get chose with this whole bottle popping, plastic surgeryed out, groupie, I want a baller rapper, just buy me a drink mentality. And how do we engage and teach our young women that there's actually more to life than that? There's more to life than being the hot-bodied chick, being with the iced-out dude. How do we teach our young women that living like a reality star is not the
reality
business?
Yeah,
I don't know if that's something that we can teach women that are doing it now. Like, if we're not...
Well, we may not be able to teach them, but we can teach the younger...
But, if we're not in schools, if we're not in, girls, boys clubs, youth centers, like, being examples of models that are consistent, it's just a conversation.
It's really unfortunate to me, because I feel like a lot of times just on social media, like Facebook groups or friends or whomever, they complain so much about the youth, but then it's like, well, what do you do?
Right.
Like, okay, do you volunteer? I mean, because just think if every person spent 1 to 2 hours per week with a child over the course of several years.
Yeah.
Just one child other than your own, how much of an impact that would make nationwide?
And you're jumping ahead.
I am. I'm guilty of my own laws.
But not only is it being a mentor, but at the same time, like, why don't we talk about the household? Like, what are parents teaching?
Right.
What's the message that they're giving their kids?
Well, before we dive into that, though, let's talk about the current situation and just the whole idea of living like a reality star, because that's actually the real hotness right now.
Yeah,
like, how do I live this reality star lifestyle?
Yeah, it's kind. Well, I think social media is fucked the game up.
Yeah.
Instagram is a liar.
Yeah.
And it has everyone believing that if I get enough likes and that right dude likes me, like it's some regular ass whatevers you walk past every day. You go on Instagram, they on there talking about, if you want to book me, hit me up on blah blah.
Yeah, it's ugly.
I mean, book you little young,
Yeah, and see, the whole thing about it, okay, who knows what the home environment's like, but then on some level, even if we're not in the home, like say if that person's down the street from us or whatever, we see somebody regularly, or even like now see, this is a double-edged sword, but I think there's also our responsibility. Like, all right, I like to catch the train sometimes, but then it's kids on the train acting up. But like today I was at the park, at the rec center, and like, it was just like the older kids, like they might be like 18, 17 or something like that. Like they're out of hand in the presence of younger kids because they feel like authority. But then, so I'm walking by and then they kind of like, look at me, they don't know me, but then I speak to them. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But then that automatically turns me into like a voice that they about to listen to just because they recognize that I'm part of the community, and that in a sense to them, I'm their elder. So at that point, it opens the door for conversation. Not like I'm pressed to talk to them, but if something is, like if they decide to fight or if they decide to like do something, if I'm in their presence, it's my responsibility as the authority to calm all that nonsense down, or to be present instead of to act like, oh, that's y'all over there. And I think a lot of the times people walk by off the hook situations and you might tweet about it or something and then not like be part of the solution right there.
Well, because they're afraid.
Well, fear has no place in this.
That's easier said than done, though. Because I mean, I know, like, for me, I take public transportation every day, and it makes my blood boil. And a couple times, I have a daughter who's in high school, so sometimes she leaves when I leave, and we ride together, and I have to tell her that this is not okay. For young boys to be sitting down and us standing up, this is not okay. But do you think I feel like I need to challenge a young man?
But see, it's not always a challenge, though. It's approach.
It can be. Most of the time, it is. Especially if he's sitting there banging his trap music, which I love, not judging, on his phone out loud for everybody to hear.
I'm in love with the Coco too, but
it's a lot that goes on. And honestly, not too long ago, a couple of days ago, actually, I was on a bus, and an older gentleman said something. He was probably in his mid to late 40s, early 50s, and he was like, "This doesn't make sense. You young guys need to get up. Y'all should know."